What if I told you that the majority of us actually had a malfunction in the main system that our bodies use to produce energy and control blood flow? Stress deteriorates it. Inflammation and aging both affect it. With your next meal, however, you can activate a biological workaround, which is the back door. In actuality, a few basic veggies can immediately fight insulin resistance and even fatty liver. You're going to learn how your cell's internal engines can be tuned up with a handful of arugula to produce more energy with less waste. This is metabolic efficiency science. What if, instead of being insulin, this same mechanism instructed your muscles to remove sugar from your bloodstream? Because studies have shown that this can raise the amount of sugar-containing cellular gateways by more than 200%. Thus, we're delving deeply into the potential of dietary nitrates in this video. Every scientific concept I discuss will provide you with an immediate, practical takeaway that you can actually put to use right now. Thus, we will investigate a few topics. First, we will discuss the backdoor mechanism that, in the event that your primary system fails, restores nitric oxide. Second, we'll discuss how it optimizes your mitochondria to burn fat more effectively. Then, we will discuss how it truly works as an insulin mimic to help reverse the initial cause of insulin resistance. After that, we'll combine everything into a comprehensive protocol that you can implement right now. Thus, we will discuss the specific foods. In order to make it work in your life, we will discuss the time and the techniques. So let's go ahead and go straight into the nitric oxide pathway 01.29. Nitric oxide synthase, or NOS, is an enzyme that is essential to your body's primary nitric oxide system. That's how nitric oxide is meant to be made. However, the system is quite weak, and there is a significant issue. Thus, stress causes it to be downregulated. Inflammation and age cause it to become downregulated. Your nitric oxide production so plummets when this entire nitric oxide system slows down. As a result, your metabolism, circulation, and energy all decrease along with it. Essentially uses the restroom. The nitrate to nitrite nitric oxide pathway is the solution to this. If you want to call it that, this is the biological equivalent of a backdoor. Therefore, your oral microbiome, the bacteria on your tongue, converts dietary nitrate into nitrite when you consume plants high in nitrate. The remainder is subsequently processed by your body, which converts it to nitric oxide. Additionally, this gets around the malfunctioning NOS system I mentioned entirely. As a practical conclusion, safeguarding your oral microbiome should be your primary priority. Your mouth is where it all starts. Therefore, if you use an antiseptic mouthwash, you are actually eliminating the bacteria that initially enable the system to function. Okay, so you don't want to use the harsh mouthwash? It just undermines the synthesis of nitric oxide. And it has been demonstrated that using mouthwash is bad. However, there are a few items that you may include in your diet that are truly nitrate star-like. Additionally, you have arugula, spinach, beetroot, celery, romaine lettuce, bok choy, and to a certain extent, carrots. The only thing I would warn you about is the extremely high oxalate content of spinach. All right? So perhaps don't use a lot of spinach. If at all possible, lean more toward the arugula. Starting tomorrow, you can use warm water to brush your elbow instead of mouthwash in the morning. The first step is that. At lunch, add something like a tiny arugula salad with some beets. It resembles a little nitric oxide reset via a back door. One of these isn't simply good, though. It is the true star of the show. Additionally, the timing of it can fundamentally alter how your body uses oxygen, which is ultimately how you generate energy. Adjust the mitochondria. Next, let's dissect that one. Your mitochondria contain the true power. That's your body's energy factory, all right? Dietary nitrate, specifically from beets, significantly increased mitochondria's efficiency, according to a study published in Cell Metabolism. In the end, they used less oxygen and produced more ATP. This occurs mechanistically because nitrate inhibits a certain protein known as ATP-ADP translocase. Thus, energy would be lost by this protein. Alright, this defective protein would leak energy, and your mitochondria would stop wasting oxygen once the leak was sealed. Alright, so because you're not leaking energy, you begin to produce stronger, cleaner energy. What does this mean for you then? That means your cellular engines are physically fine-tuned by nitrates. They improve their efficiency and cleanliness. So, using nitrates as a performance enhancer is what you can do in this specific situation, correct? 60 to 90 minutes prior to your workout, but more crucially before a mentally taxing endeavor, you can eat a nitrate-rich meal, take a nitrate-rich supplement, or drink peak juice. Alright? Nitric oxide would peak at that time. In fact, you're asking for it. Thus, you're combining what your body needs most with what is maybe your most effective. If you wanted to create something a bit more Mediterranean, you could attempt this. An arugula base would work well. Roasted beets would work well. You might use sea salt and olive oil. Alternatively, you may also mix arugula with a small amount of beet juice or powder. It's actually quite effective and minimal in carbohydrates. You can try a cognitive demand with a precognitive load nitrate increase tomorrow and observe how it feels. You might actually notice that your energy level stabilizes and that your mental stamina increases. Here's the story twist though. Energy is not the only benefit of the same nitric oxide route. In fact, it functions similarly to insulin. Before we get into the specifics, there's another crucial aspect that people frequently overlook, which is their appropriate minerals. Minerals play a major role in controlling blood volume and blood flow. Therefore, I usually suggest a decent electrolyte, and I've included a link below for a great offer that gives you a free sample variety pack of Element electrolytes with any purchase. Free variety pack of LMNT. Therefore, you receive a complimentary variety pack with their best tastes when you purchase any electrolytes from them. This stuff is fantastic. 200 potassium, 60 magnesium, and 1000 sodium mg. When I am fasting, I drink it. It reduces my appetite, therefore I drink it while I'm trying to lose weight. Additionally, it gives me a surge of energy because we tend to forget that minerals are a major, if not the most significant, regulator of energy, and that our bodies receive signals from our brains and vice versa. It can be found on the top line of the video's description. Therefore, nitric oxide does more than simply mimic insulin to expand blood arteries. Don't you think that's a bit outdated? The GLUT4 transporter is one of the cellular doors that it truly unlocks. As a result, sugar can enter your muscles from your blood. It resembles the doorway of a cell. Nitrate supplementation raised GLUT4 levels by 215% in muscle and 344% in adipose tissue, according to a study published in the journal Nitric Oxide. In other words, your cells are essentially creating new pathways for sugar to enter without requiring additional insulin. Therefore, your bloodstream is not carrying the sugar. Their glucose tolerance was higher in this study. Their fasting insulin levels were lower. They simply had a better metabolic situation overall, and their levels of inflammation were lower. In human language, this simply indicates that nitrates function similarly to an insulin magnetic. They improve blood sugar regulation without putting undue strain on your pancreas or requiring it to create extra insulin. Here's something you can do to somewhat benefit from this. In fact, you could combine nitrates with carbohydrates. Eat veggies that are high in nitrates, such as celery or beets, together with your meal that has the most carbohydrates of the day. Thus, you may incorporate anything as tasty as arugula into your spaghetti. You may add some arugula, or possibly even some beets to a bowl of rice. You might serve your sweet potatoes with roasted beets. You have a variety of roasted vegetables.
Your muscles are actually assisted in opening up those glutes for transporters by this entire combination. As glucose enters the bloodstream, it flattens blood sugar spikes and rises, maintains more steady energy levels, and relieves the pancreas of some of its strain. Therefore, you can literally improve your glucose management in a few hours if you simply include arugula in your carb dinner tonight. It is real, even though it seems too good to be true. With an insulin mimetic, we have now increased energy efficiency and enhanced blood sugar regulation. However, how do we bind it? The entire protocol? Together, let's create the ideal complete nitric oxide therapy. Let's take a moment to put the science into practice now that you understand it. Let's divide this into different levels. Alright, so the highest tiers are those that own the greatest amount. Arugula is the king then. The spinach is good, but occasionally, I suppose, the oxalates are beneficial. Alright, don't simply discard the leaves. There are beetroot and beet greens as well. In reality, you also want the greens. Celery is quite high in them and quite low in calories. Tier 2 comes after that. Alright, these are the kinds of ones you might use every day.
Along with Roma, you also have carrots and bok choy. Alright, these aren't as rich in it, but they could be added as a base with ease. Therefore, choose a Tier 1 power meal and make a commitment to consuming it once daily for 7 days in a row. See how that makes you feel. However, timing determines the actual outcomes. So, let's discuss that now. Okay, so this is the strategic moment. Consume by traits perhaps 60 or 90 minutes prior to activity if you're looking for performance and energy. Additionally, try something like beetroot powder to cut down on calories if you're fasting. You should have them with your biggest carbohydrate meal of the day for blood sugar regulation and metabolic control. So perhaps with dinner or something similar. Additionally, you can stack them with other lifestyle triggers, such as things that can intensify the effects of nitric oxide if you want to increase their effectiveness. Include it with sporadic fasting, correct? Thus, through a process known as SIRT1 activation, nitric oxide will be extended to mitochondrial advantages, and then exposure to heat or cold. Through uncoupling signaling, this initiates what is known as mitochondrial biogenesis. Your mitochondria will therefore become stronger and produce more heat as a result of this. Maintain good oral microbiota hygiene as well. So instead of using the antiseptic mouthwash, brush and floss as you usually do, just avoid using the antibacterial products. It's simply not good. The microorganisms that initiate this entire process should not be destroyed. Thus, all of these factors, such as a small amount of fasting, a small amount of hormonal stress, and maintaining the oral biome, converge in the same nitric oxide mitochondrial pathways. In essence, we are reaping the benefits of mitochondrial health. Isn't that correct? If we combine all of these benefits of nitric oxide with certain lifestyle choices, they may be amplified even more. The typical exercises that we might perform as a hormetic stress are high-intensity interval training. I've now included a video TMG supplement that goes over TMG, or trimethylcene, in detail. TMG is a chemical found in beets that I believe will be quite beneficial to you. Therefore, if you want to learn a little bit more about it, I suggest watching this video. Keep it locked in here as usual. Tomorrow, I'll see you.